to Rhythm Section Life, the world's leading rhythm podcast, proudly sponsored by Collision Drumsticks, where we don't just talk drums, we dive deep into the culture, the history, and personal journeys that brought our guests to the stage. We have some incredible conversations lined up for you. To keep up with our latest videos, tour dates, and exclusive behind-the-scenes content, be sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell. Don't forget to like this video and join the conversation in the comments below. Joining us this week is the one and only Soul Kerr. Hi, Soul. How are you today?
Great, Lisa. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for joining me. So I know that you started playing drums because your mom was looking for an outlet for all this like crazy energy that you had. And you really stated that in the beginning, you liked playing drums, but really the love came when you started playing with other people. Can you kind of elaborate on that and talk about your experience now and how beginning to play with other musicians really affected that and pushed you forward to where you are today?
Sure thing. Yeah. So it did start pretty randomly. My mom was just, she was just a dedicated mother looking for outlets for her kid who had way too much energy. And, a lot of us at 10 years old were that way.
Yeah.
So she decided to put me in drum lessons. She did try piano at first. So I got a minor foundation in music through there. But she put me in drum lessons and it just seemed to make more sense to me. Did that for 3, 4 years, I think, before I actually had the opportunity to play music with a friend of mine for the first time.
Yeah.
And we wrote a song and it just kind of changed everything for me. It was something that made music make even more sense to me because, music is a language. The way that a lot of us talk about it, it's just another way of communicating. And I was able to
Yes.
communicate with a friend of mine through music, and it just made it the camaraderie of that just made it so much more exciting for me. So at this point, it's the only way to play music, in my opinion.
I have some students that are about that age when you started, and today we're having a conversation because some of them they want to give up, and I'm like, really, if you guys make it to the other side of wanting to give up and continue playing together, this is different type of relationship or intimacy that you have with a bandmate, that you have these shared musical experiences that really kind of shape your adolescence or your childhood that you take with you forever. I'm guessing you experience things like that as well.
Sure, yeah. I mean, absolutely. I'm going to say
Yeah.
it's definitely something that changes your bond with a person as soon as you play music with them. I can say that
Hmm.
my band mates, past and present, and certainly in the future as well. There's just a different level of bond there, which can't really be replicated in other settings.
I agree. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think with and the same thing can be true if you like to cook with somebody. The same thing can be true if you like to paint with someone or just share some kind of creative experience. And the same thing can also happen within your romantic relationships. I think that it's
Hmm.
very important to have creative experiences with people. And when you're in a band with somebody, yes, you speak a language with them that you can't speak with just anybody. So I think
Right.
it's very necessary, whether it's music or any other creative endeavor, to have that type of bond with people and, share those experiences. I think it's very important.
I agree. So you've noted that in the beginning, your inspiration comes from bands like AC/DC, Metallica, Guns N' Roses, and Slipknot. Can you talk about those influences in your drumming and how you've kind of taken that with you?
Yeah. Well, the ones you mentioned right there are actually a great example of the way my tastes have progressed, because AC/DC was very, very early on for me. Guns N' Roses was another really, really early on one. After that, I found Godsmack. I
Hmm.
found Pantera and Metallica. And then after that, it turned into bands like Slipknot. And I mean, everything from there, Slipknot opened up a whole new world for me. So I'll say that it stemmed from me listening to a band and saying, "Hey, I love this music, but I want more drums. I want more drumming." So it went from Guns N' Roses to Metallica, where in the 80s and 90s, Metallica was shredding on all the instruments. And from there, it goes to Slipknot, which has had some of the most iconic drummers in history. be part of
Yes.
that band. Joey Jordison is still a top 3 of all time for me. And, it's not that the music got boring to me, but after a certain point, it just got to I started to realize that, like, I want to hear absolute mastery of my instrument. I wanna hear what
Mhm.
it's like when somebody takes the drums and completely reinvents the wheel. So I ended up listening to bands like Slipknot and, along that same vein, Fear Factory, Counterparts, August Burns Red, Body Snatcher, just to name a few, absolute shredders in their
Yeah.
own regard. And in different ways too, because I just named different subgenres of metal, but a lot of metal drumming really pushes the envelope and reinvents what drumming was before metal became popularized a few decades ago. So that definitely speaks to how I progressed as a drummer and a music listener over the years.
Recently I kind of went back and started paying attention to the drummer for AC/DC and the things he does. And one of the interesting things I found is he doesn't typically crash during the verses. So he's like using a lot of crash during the chorus, which brings this whole different level of dynamics to the choruses, to the music that I don't think that you actually realize until you start paying attention to those little things. I mean, a lot of AC/DC tunes are like, four on the floor, like simple stuff, but it's like also those little nuances that make that stuff really cool and also make you think about like how you could make a song better. So I could use that when I'm playing it now. I maybe wouldn't have used like 20 years ago. So,
Sure. Yeah, and adding on to that as well, I'll definitely say that listening to other drummers and digesting the way that they play, it allows us to expand on our own perspective of how to play the drums as well. I love listening to different kinds of drummers and combining all of that into my own unique style, and I'm sure you agree. So it's a lot of
yes.
fun to learn from other players.
Right. Okay, so let's talk about your style and how you apply that to traders currently.
Sure. I played Traitors music a long time before I was a member. I was able to audition pretty quickly because I had already been playing their music for a long time. And the reason for that is that I've always felt that their style opened up a lot of room for creativity within my own unique scope. I think every drummer
Mhm.
has their own scope, and the scope can be changed, but some of it just stems from what you like, some of it stems from what you yourself are naturally good at. And there is a lot of four to the floor, like we mentioned in Traders. There's a lot of wide open, just groove based drum licks. And then over the years, they did bring in more technicality and more flavor into the drumming. And by the time I actually joined the band, there was a unique kind of spread in their discography. There was a lot of different sounds, and I like the pocket a lot. I do like to just kinda hang back and just hold down the rhythmic section
Yes.
and not necessarily show off a whole lot, but I do like to show off when it's called for. So, I'm the kinda drummer who will, for the most part, just keep the backbeat strong, but then when I find a moment where it's warranted, where there isn't a lot of vocals or where there's not a lot of other showing off going on, to find a moment to rip something on the drums and to show off flavor there. So it's like I add my moments in there tastefully. And Traders is very breakdown heavy. They play a lot of slow, sludgy music and then
Mhm.
also some more picked up rhythm based music, but it really works well for my style. And that was kind of a long winded answer, but the bottom line is every drummer resonates with different kinds of music, and Traders is a great example of what I naturally am good at.
Well, and I've seen that. I've watched a lot of your videos in the last month. Something that I love about your playing is you are in the pocket and you are a groove drummer, but man, you have some really amazing fills where I'm like, holy cow, how's he doing that? Super fast, just really great show off fills that are super tasty, but you're not overplaying. You could overplay in that music, but you don't. And so I think it makes it when you're actually doing those things stand out and people are noticing and it's really cool.
Thank you. Yeah, I think
So
less is more in that regard, and a lot of times.
so when we're developing as a drummer, who were drummers that helped you understand that silence and space could be as powerful as blast beats?
Let's see. Yeah, that's I think To be completely honest with you, I think it's something that just inherently made sense to me, and I kind of figured it out. Like I figured out what it was that I understood along the way.
Hmm.
Um, and I look at different drummers for different inspiration. But I think Ray Luzier is a big example for me of a very groove based drummer who knows what to play and what not to play.
Yeah.
Um, I think, and this might be a bit of a hot take, but Lars Ulrich in his heyday
Hmm.
was, I mean, one of the goats, and
Right.
something can be said for where he's at right now. I don't think he feels that he needs to try that hard right now. He's already in the biggest band in the world. But Lars Ulrich has quite the legacy of, setting the pace for a lot of drummers. Um, And then just, a different kind of example is I already mentioned Joey Jordison, where he's in a band where it makes sense to show off almost every piece of a song, and something insanely shred heavy is happening all the time. Um, but then Traders comes along and it's more about just hold down the rhythm and allow people to experience the silence almost as much
Yeah.
as the lack thereof. So the big open gaps. Body Snatcher does that. Traders does that, and certain bands that are just known for it. So
Hmm.
it's hard to say which drummers I look at for that in particular because I think it's a more of a group decision in the band to decide to really make a point of leaving wide open gaps to where
Right.
people have to hear the silence before they hear the re-entrance, and it's a really really
It,
cool effect to add to music. I think.
I agree. The silence and then crack, this like snare hit that brings the whole band in, and it's a little jarring, but it's great because it gets your attention, and also I think it gives your ears a chance to rest and digest everything that's happening, and it makes the music more interesting to me.
Yeah, and that crack you mentioned is very intentional. It makes the impact even larger when
Hmm.
you leave silence before it. It's like, is the song over? And then boom, no, no, it's not over yet, and
Yeah.
adds emphasis to the accent, which is very, when it's done tastefully, it's one of the coolest things you can do in a metal setting.
Right. So some standout tracks on the record are SBC and Imposter, which feature aggressive shifts and heavy breakdowns. So when I'm watching you play with a lot of energy while maintaining relaxed, loose technique. Were there any tracks that were particularly demanding, or do you do anything special to work on your technique to maintain a relaxed state? Because I've went through your videos and it's really impressive because I don't think you're overexerting yourself. I think you're really utilizing like your energy in the best way to maintain stamina through the songs. And you're playing with this really great technique that is very loose and also intentional, but also I think it allows you to maintain what you're doing through the set. And I was really impressed with that loose technique.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And yeah, when it comes to SBC and Imposter, those do have great examples of being a blend of some technicality and groove, but then also having those wide open gaps. And I would say that other than just, playing along to music, mostly when I'm playing, for the most part, I play along to music. I don't normally play along to just the drums. I do that sometimes, but um, playing along to music is what I do most of the time. And sometimes I'll just sit and listen to a metronome, um, just a blank metronome. And there are times when I'm also playing a simple backbeat along to a metronome or a song.
Hmm.
Sometimes I'm playing in order to improve my chops, and sometimes I'm playing to just remember how to stay deep in the pocket, just
Right.
pocket practice. I find that it's difficult to play difficult drum parts well when you aren't able to just sit right in the beat. And so
Yes, I
I'm
agree.
playing very, very simple grooves and really focusing on not showing off. is one of the most important things you need to do before you're able to develop chops and learn how to show off. So I would say that's the best thing for a younger drummer. And but as far as maintaining my stamina, that's something I really learned when I started going on tour. Uh,
Hmm.
time I went on tour, I noticed that certain muscles would get sore that I didn't even recognize
Yes.
before. Like a nerve above my elbow at one point was giving me pain, and I learned how to keep my shoulders dropped. Just really focus on letting the weight of the stick carry the momentum. I'm a hard hitter, but I'm not the hardest hitter. I do
Hmm.
believe in letting the momentum of your tools, namely the sticks, do some of the work for you. And I think
Right.
efficiency is key in maintaining yourself.
So when you're playing live, do you play with a metronome or just practice at home with one?
Both. So when I play
Okay.
live, I have a click track, but when I'm recording my drum content at home, I also will either listen to the song or the song with a click track over it. It's
Okay.
very important to be able to do that because younger drummers, before you do that, it is a learning curve.
Yes.
Even if you're recording your music in the studio, it's something you have to get used to. And I think that pretty much every drummer who has aspirations of performing live on stage should be well accustomed to playing with a click track.
I agree. And, in the beginning, I would practice with a metronome and then I use a click track live too. And I was a little nervous because, like, what happens if I get
Mhm.
off or, and that has happened. But it's
Right.
also kind of freeing because it also let you know where the downbeat is, and then you can do all this stuff around it. But it
Yeah.
it does, and the energy of playing live, you're going to want to push stuff, or the band wants to push things. But it does keep you. For me, it keeps me grounded and keeps me in these boundaries. I actually think it's more freeing than anything else. So it's been really a good experience for me.
Yeah, it's a great skill to have, and I mean, it does make it a lot more fun when you don't have to worry about whether you're falling off the beat, and you can have fun on stage knowing that you have that anchor to come back to if you need to remind yourself where the downbeat is. It's very useful.
Yeah, yeah. So I think, from researching you and knowing you a little bit, I think you thrive on the energy of playing live and just playing off the audience and your band. I think that's something that inspires you. Could you talk a little bit about that? About how you
Sure. Yeah.
respond to the crowd or things in that nature?
Yeah, sure. So, the drummer just physically is at the back of the stage, so it is a little bit more difficult sometimes for us to interact with the crowd. But I will say that I love connecting with people while I'm performing because I do notice in the crowd when somebody's just particularly a fan of drummers, there are people who will watch me perform pretty much throughout the whole set, and they'll take moments to look at what else is going on the rest of the stage. But there are some people who really like to just lock in with the drummers,
Mm-hmm.
and obviously I appreciate those people. But more so than that, it's just an understanding that as a drummer, we're not the ones who actually are charged with crowd interaction as much. We have an instrument that's a lot of fun to watch because it's the biggest instrument. There's multiple pieces sitting around us. So in that there is room for showboating, of course, but we are charged with maintaining the rhythmic flow of the entire show. There's a lot of situations where a drummer is the only one wearing a click track, and a lot of times that has been the case with me. So,
Mm-hmm.
if I'm interacting with the crowd, a lot of times it'll be after the set. I'll throw a stick out to the crowd, somebody will catch it. Um, but connecting with the crowd is it's just a little bit different because you find your moments to make eye contact with somebody who likes the drummers and like, what's up, dude? Appreciate you. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
But
Right.
we're not the ones who are at the front of the stage like the vocalist grabbing the crowd's hands or like constantly interacting with people in front of them. It's much more about just holding it down from the back and being the spine of the whole show. And there's a lot of responsibility with that, but I also like it. I like being in that position.
One of the realities of being an artist in 2026 is that you have to be a content creator to get yourself noticed. So, can you speak a little bit about your thoughts on that? I'm noticing that you post a lot of your videos on social media to get interaction with other people. What are your thoughts on that?
Yes. So I will say that it's an absolute necessity in 2026. It is certainly necessary to have a presence online. You could look at it as a bit of a necessary evil because I know that there was a time before my time in music where you could go on tour and sell records, like physical copies of your record, and have a career. And with the advent of streaming and the popularity of the internet these days, the internet's not going anywhere. It has become extremely necessary to have a presence online to gain the exposure to actually have a chance of grabbing the attention of the masses, especially with how overexposed the market is, or how much, or
Right.
sorry, how oversaturated the market is what I should say. There's so many people who are putting out content and who want everybody's attention that it's that much more difficult to actually stand out. But if you find a way to stand out online, grab a bunch of followers on Instagram, TikTok, you know, wherever you want to be, you will have a great chance of, even without spending a dollar sometimes, of creating an opportunity to actually blow up with your music. And
Right.
in that way, there are more independent artists these days. Traders is a fully independent artist. We've never been on a label. And we blew up on the internet. We went viral. That was far before my time, of course. I wasn't in the band at
Hmm.
the time, but what I can say is that it's a beautiful thing because of the opportunity it presents. But it also at times can kind of suck that you kind of have to be a content creator in order
Right.
to, make a name for yourself as an artist. The labels will not create you on their own anymore. And you can't expect to make a lot of money off of your streaming royalties either. So yeah, like you had mentioned, I put out drum videos all the time. It just makes sense for any artist who wants to get themselves out there to create their content independently and hope that the right person notices you. It's really what it is.
So, you are a drummer who also has a podcast. How'd that come about?
Yeah, so Make Your Mark is the name of the podcast, and it's real simple. I mean, really what it is that I found a new voice when I became a drummer. When I started playing music with people, as we talked about before, found a new way to communicate my feelings and my emotions, and get that out on the table and off my chest, and also to communicate with other people and other musicians. And I got really, really good at that over the years. And then at one point, I realized, like, hey, I also have this voice. I also have things that I would like to say. So I felt that it would be a cool little experiment to be a drummer and the host of a podcast. Craig Reynolds is a great example of somebody who I see doing that. He's kind of my spirit animal for that, if you will. I'm a huge fan
Okay.
of him, and I like that he's a great influential drummer, but people also know that he has opinions and that he's well spoken, and that he's not just what people sometimes look at as a background character. I don't think drummers are looked at as background characters as much anymore. Just
Hmm.
like bass players are not always looked at as background characters anymore. Those tropes are kind of dying. But
Right.
I do like the fact that I've found a way to use my actual voice on top of putting out beats and people liking those. So if that makes sense.
Yes, that's fantastic. Also, you are endorsed by Collision Drumsticks. Collision focuses on the foundation of a drummer, mindset, and goal setting. Were there any specific goals you had for yourself when you first joined their roster that you've seen come to life, or anything that has changed since you became an endorsed drummer?
Well, what I can say is that Collision Drumsticks was the first company to ever endorse me, and I didn't really know what to think about a company reaching out offering an endorsement at the time.
Hmm.
And I have a sponsorship now. I have a couple of endorsements, but when Collision reached out, I said, okay, this is kind of cool. They're offering me a discount on the stakes. They're offering me to be part of the family, so to speak. So what I realized is that it was an opportunity for me to become a brand of my own,
Right.
because I realized that a company was reaching out because they wanted to partner with me as a drummer. And that's what an endorsement is. They want to partner with, my fans at that time. And, I'm not a super big name drummer, but I did look at it as an opportunity to start to look at myself as a brand, because I should be thinking about it in terms of any other company that wants to come along and endorse me and wants to work with me and just basically share my vision and have me jump into their vision as well. You got to start looking at yourself as a brand, as
Hmm.
not just a drummer, but this particular drummer, and there's a reason to follow this drummer. So when they reached out to endorse me, I realized that I wanted to turn myself into a brand, and I think after 5, 6, 7 years, however long I've been with Collision now, I have taken hold of that, and that's the reason that I'm where I am today.
That's fantastic. And I think you used two keywords there that are really important, because we can spend a lot of time practicing in our basement or our living room. But first of all, partnership with companies, looking at it as a partnership, how we work together. But also the term brand, I think, is really important. Is if you want to do anything with music, you have to take it out of the bedroom. You have to create a brand for yourself and sell yourself to the world, and figure out how to do that. And you have figured it out and are successful with it. And I'm impressed with what you're doing. So finally, where can people find this great music that you're putting out and find you? I found you on YouTube and Spotify. Is there any place else?
Sure, yeah. So Traders can be found on Spotify and Apple Music, and just about any streaming platform you can think of. Certainly YouTube. I myself can be found on YouTube and Instagram and TikTok and Facebook as well. Um, and I am working on a new project which will also be available in all those same places. I'm probably going to be putting out more full-length drum covers on YouTube as well. So, I'm growing my presence online, but right now I would encourage everybody to follow me as Metalcore Vanilla Ice on primarily Instagram and TikTok, and you'll see all the updates.
Any spotlights on the new project you're working on that you want to share?
Well, we're in the studio right now. There's 4 songs written, and we need to record vocals, and then we need to basically mix down and master all the music. And then it's just going to be a branding process and making sure that we're ready to release actual music. So if you follow me, you will absolutely hear about it when we go live. We're not quite sharing the name of the band or anything yet. It's not
Okay.
at that point, but we are working very hard on it behind the scenes. Obviously, we're all very busy in our daily lives, so it's taking some time, but we are very proud of what we're already accomplishing in the background. And when it comes out and the music drops, it'll be undeniable.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much for joining me today, Soul.
Thank you. Appreciate the time, Lisa.